It was a late night. Everything around me was silent. I was sitting alone in a familiar room, no light, no sound, no effort. Just sitting, allowing everything in the mind to settle down. Darkness filled the space. My eyes were closed, no light, no colors, no physical images. And yet, in the stillness, something strange began to happen. I could still see. A face appeared, then a memory, then an old road. Everything unfolded clearly, as vivid as a dream while wide awake. But here's the mystery. I was not imagining. I was not deliberately recalling anything. The images simply came on their own, and I was just silently watching. In that moment, a question rose from deep within me. What is it that is seeing all of this? It's not the eyes, they were closed. It's not light, there was none shining. It's not imagination. I wasn't trying at all. So, where does this seeing come from? A seeing that does not depend on light, not confined by space or time. It was not a hallucination, not mere imagination, but living evidence that there is an ever-present capacity to know, even when all physical senses are completely at rest. That night of meditation revealed something beyond the senses. And for me, it was the beginning of a journey. The journey of looking directly into the very act of seeing itself. If you have ever closed your eyes and yet still seen something, you may understand what I mean. But don't be too quick to call it the mind or intuition or any name at all. Because the moment we label it, we fall back into intellect. Instead, let us walk together with philosophy of the heart, not to gain more concepts, but to touch that knowing which has never left us, not even for a single second. We usually believe that seeing is a function of the eyes, that the eyes are the birthplace of perception. But actually, the eyes see nothing. They are only like a camera lens, receiving light, colors, and shapes, sending signals back for the nervous system to process. If the eyes are damaged, the signals stop. But if the brain is not functioning, even with perfect eyes, there is no vision. This proves something crucial. The eyes are only gateways, not the true subject of seeing. True seeing does not lie in the retina, nor in the optic nerves. Those are only instruments, means for something deeper to operate. Awareness itself. Think about your dreams. In a dream, you still see people, places, movements, even emotions. You might find yourself flying in the sky or standing in a forest you've never been to. Yet somehow you know where you are and who you're speaking with. All the while, your eyes are closed. Your senses are inactive. So who is it that is seeing the dream? What is it that perceives images, feelings, and voices while the body lies completely still? The same happens when you close your eyes and recall a loved one who has passed away. You see their face, their smile. You may even hear their familiar voice inside your mind. No one else can know what you are seeing, because the whole experience does not take place in the eyes, but in an inner dimension, a dimension science cannot yet measure. No sense organs are involved. And still you see, you feel, you know. From this, one conclusion becomes clear. There is a power of seeing that transcends the physical senses. It does not come from the eyes. It comes from somewhere deeper. Deeper than the eyes, deeper than the brain, deeper even than thought itself. If we believe that the eyes are the subject of vision, we miss the entire depth of awareness. The eyes can go blind, but the inner seeing continues. The eyelids can close, but the mind still sees vast worlds, far greater than the physical one. This seeing needs no light. It is not blocked by eyelids. It does not rely on external objects. It is the foundation of every experience, whether it's a dream, a memory, an imagination, or the present moment. And if you begin to question the true nature of this seeing, you are already taking your first steps on the path of discovering your own mind. When we speak of the mind as this seeing, the first thing to clarify is this. The mind is not the stream of thoughts running in your head. Thoughts are only one of countless appearances in the mind. Like waves rising and fading on the surface of a lake, the mind is like a still lake. It is the space that contains and allows every movement to arise. The mind is not the brain. The brain is only a biological organ like the heart or the lungs. It processes information, stores memory, coordinates activity. But the brain cannot know its own existence. The mind, on the other hand, is aware. Aware of the brain's functioning, aware of the flow of thoughts that come and go. The mind is not the same as everyday consciousness either. Consciousness is the state of being awake, of knowing what we're doing, what we're feeling. But consciousness can switch off. When you fall into deep, dreamless sleep, or under anesthesia, consciousness is gone. Yet the mind does not switch off, because the very moment you wake up, the knowing is already there. No one presses a button. No one activates it. That knowing was always present, only temporarily veiled by the brain's pause and by the absence of language. Many people think the mind is simply personal awareness, the sense of, I am knowing, I am thinking, I am observing. But that awareness is actually a conditioned structure, shaped by memory, experience, and identity. It operates as a stream colored by the personal self, by social roles, by the ego. It reacts, it divides, it always gives the impression that there is a someone behind perception. The mind, in truth, is different. The mind is knowing without any trace of the personal. It carries no name, no memory, no role. When there is no longer I know, but only pure knowing, without division, without labeling, that is the mind. Not I am seeing this, but seeing itself happening. A presence without subject or object. A natural radiance like the sun, shining without choosing where to shine. And here's something curious, often overlooked. You can recognize that you are thinking. You can notice that you are worried, that you are recalling the past, or imagining the future. Which means, beyond thought, there is something observing thought. And that something is not thought itself. That is the mind. The mind doesn't try to see, yet it always sees. It doesn't try to listen, yet it always knows. It has no shape, no color, but it is the ground upon which all experiences appear. When you close your eyes and imagine a scene, a face, or a dream, where do those images arise? Not in physical space, not in the air around you. They arise in the mind. So, more precisely, the mind is not seeing, in the sense of a subject looking at an object. The mind is a total knowing, without division between knower and known. The mind does not oppose the world. The mind contains the world. When you realize this, you see that true vision requires no eyes, no external scene, no separation. The mind is the fundamental capacity by which every phenomenon is known, seen, felt. Every sense perception, every stream of consciousness, every emotion, every thought. They are all just waves rising and fading on the surface of the lake of the mind. And that knowing, that ground of the mind, is the one thing that never changes, never ages, never gets damaged by time or circumstance. If you begin to turn attention toward the knowing itself, instead of only toward what is known, you are already very close to awakening. Because then, you are no longer caught in images, in sounds, in thoughts, but returning to the pure knowing that has no form, yet never leaves. The true mind. But if you only stop at realizing that the eyes are not the subject of vision, and that the mind is the deeper seeing, that recognition can still remain abstract. Why? Because in daily life we still look, still listen, still feel, and still react as if everything is real, personal, and separate. So how do you know whether you are seeing with the mind, or merely seeing through the eyes and the ego? Picture a simple situation. You walk into a room, and there's a person sitting quietly inside. If you see that person and immediately think, they look sad, maybe something's wrong, or this person doesn't like me, then you are not truly seeing them. You are seeing through memory, through emotion, through layers of concepts collected from the past. That vision is filtered by the me. It is no longer pure. But if you see without adding any story, just seeing the person sitting there, present, without judgment, without projection, then the seeing becomes complete. No you, no them, no narrative in between. Just life, directly present, clearly known. That is when the mind is seeing. And that kind of seeing is not an action, not an effort. It is simply what the mind always is. It's not about trying to see correctly or to observe deeply. True seeing happens when there is no one trying at all. When you are no longer the one who is searching, judging, or controlling, then a natural clarity begins to shine. This clarity is so simple that most people overlook it. And yet, because of that very simplicity, it is profoundly deep. Think about this. When someone praises you, you feel joy. But wait, who is feeling that joy? Is it the mind itself? Or is it just an idea of me being reinforced? And when someone criticizes you, do you notice the discomfort rising in your body and mind? In that very moment, if you can simply witness the reaction without identifying with it, you are seeing through the mind. But if you get carried away, wanting to defend yourself, wanting to change the other person, then the seeing is still happening through the lens of the ego. Seeing with the mind does not mean becoming cold or detached. On the contrary, it is a deeper form of aliveness, where you feel everything clearly, but you are not drowned in it. You can notice sadness rising, but you are not the sadness. You can witness anger appearing, but you are not the one who is angry. The mind, pure awareness, simply knows this is sadness, this is anger, this is thought. It does not judge, it does not condemn, it does not try to interfere, it simply knows. And in that state, you begin to realize something profound. Most of life, we are looking but not truly seeing, because our seeing is colored by habits of the past, by personal needs, by the fear of being hurt. It is no longer the pure seeing of the mind, but a version distorted by layers upon layers of the ego. Seeing with the mind is like seeing for the very first time, without filters, without repetition, without conclusion. And when that seeing arises, everything becomes lighter. Even anger, even sadness, even pain, because the mind does not resist anything. It simply sees. And in that simple seeing, all resistance dissolves. If you truly want to live in deep awareness, don't try to change the world. Don't force yourself to think differently, or try to become better at meditation. Just observe, what are you seeing with? When the answer is no longer my eyes, my memory, my ego, then you have begun to see with the mind. And from there, everything becomes clear as it truly is. But here is the challenge. The moment this seeing arises, the ego rushes in. It quickly claims it. I am the one who sees. I am the one who understands. I am the one who analyzes. And so pure seeing becomes hijacked, turned into a tool for the ego. We don't just look, we add a story. I see this. Therefore it means, I understand that, because I know who they are, what kind of person they must be. Seeing is no longer direct contact with reality. It becomes the foundation upon which the ego projects meaning, strengthens itself, and secures its place in the world. And that is where distortion begins. Instead of seeing with awareness, we see through fear. Instead of seeing with presence, we see through defensive habits. A stranger's glance may be misinterpreted as contempt. An innocent word may be taken as an attack. A small gesture from another can be magnified into a threat. Not because the world itself is distorted, but because our seeing has been distorted by an ego that is desperate to protect itself. The ego doesn't just distort seeing. It uses seeing to manipulate emotions. It convinces you that you are looking at truth, when in fact, you are only looking at yourself, reflected through the lens of expectations, wounds, and unresolved memories. You think you are awake, but in reality, you are still living in a dream built out of the past and out of reflexes. So, the real danger is not in seeing wrongly, but in seeing through the ego. When that happens, seeing will always bend toward reinforcing the feeling that I am the center. I am the one who knows, I am the one who is right. And whatever goes against that image is dismissed, resisted, or denied. This is the hidden reason why so many people, even with knowledge and experience, continue to live in cycles of suffering. They cannot see reality as it is, because their seeing is always clouded by the need to affirm themselves. They do not see others as living human beings, but only as mirrors, reflecting back the image they want to believe about themselves. True seeing is not about what I see, but whether I am still in it. If there is still a self standing behind the seeing, then everything you see is only perception hijacked by the ego. It doesn't free you. It only builds thicker walls between you and the world. But if one day you look, and there is no looker behind the looking, only seeing itself, moving on its own, then the ego has no ground to stand on. It has nothing left to cling to, nothing to interpret, nothing to inflate. At that point, seeing becomes clear, untouched by the dust of time, unstained by the traces of the past. And from that seeing, you begin to live without repeating yourself in every experience. To recognize this hijacking is not to fight the ego, but to no longer be controlled by it. You don't need to destroy the ego. You only need to see that you are not it. And to see in this way, that is seeing through the mind. A seeing that is not possessed by the ego. A seeing that does not need to affirm anything. A seeing in which you are no longer the center of any story. And yet, you are the very ground on which all stories arise and dissolve. Returning to the mind is not an intellectual journey. It is not about learning new knowledge, remembering lofty concepts, or believing in a spiritual system. On the contrary, returning to the mind is a stopping. Stopping the chase after images. Stopping the clinging to emotions. Stopping the endless pull of thoughts. In that stopping, a space opens, where knowing arises without needing any object to attach to. You don't need to search for the mind, because even now, as you hear these words, the one that knows you are listening, that is it. It is not found in ideology, nor in philosophy. It is the quiet foundation that is simply aware of every word passing by, observing every subtle reaction arising within you. You cannot see the mind as a thing, but if you are still enough, you directly realize everything is happening within it. The mind does not come from outside. It does not disappear when you are distracted. It is always there, like a clear mirror, reflecting every image without clinging to any of them. When the mind attaches to images, it becomes what we call imagination, thought, or consciousness. But when it no longer clings to anything, it returns to its original state, pure, clear, silent. In that state, you are no longer the one looking. The looking itself is flowing, with no subject, no object, no interference. People often think that seeing oneself means understanding your personality, your preferences, your strengths and weaknesses. But that is only the psychological shell. A small, fragile layer, easily changed. Truly seeing yourself is recognizing the one that is seeing all of that. The one not bound by names, by memories, or by identities. And when you see the seeing itself, when you become aware of the mind, you will know you are not what you think you are. You are not the stories in your head. You are not fleeting emotions. You are not the image you are busy protecting in front of society. You are the awareness that sees all of these things appear and fade. You are the ground from which every experience arises and returns. No one can give you this. No knowledge can replace this experience. No religion can own or define it. Only when you directly pause, observe, fall silent, and recognize, will you truly meet yourself. Like drinking water, only you can know whether it is hot or cold. No one can see the mind for you. But when you see it for yourself, you will know. Every question you once asked, who am I? What is the mind? Where's enlightenment? All dissolve, like morning mist in the rising sun. And at some point you realize, seeing is not just a mental phenomenon. What truly matters is this. Seeing is not just a way of knowing objects. It is the very foundation of life itself. It is not the kind of seeing that says, I know this, I know that. It is the seeing that is alive, the seeing that is moving through every single moment you call, I am living. And that is the greatest shift. From understanding what seeing is, to actually living as seeing. As long as you are still thinking about it, analyzing it, reflecting on it, you are still standing on the outside. But when you live in the seeing, with no one behind it, with nothing held onto from it, life becomes as light as a cloud. You are no longer compelled to clarify everything, no longer chasing answers to every question in your mind, because the very knowing itself is the answer. At that point, things are no longer mere objects of observation. They are movements flowing together with the seeing. You no longer see a flower as just an object. You feel the life that is blooming within it, inseparable from your own presence. There is no longer, I see the flower. There is only the meeting. Two streams of presence touching, nameless, without boundary. When the sound of a bird arises, you don't need to label what bird it is or where it came from. The silent knowing is already complete. When sadness comes, you don't need to push it away or unravel it. You just see it. And instantly, it is no longer my sadness. It is simply a passing phenomenon in the field of seeing. And like clouds drifting across the sky, it leaves no trace. To live this way is to live unbound. You can still talk, work, love, create, but without the burden of acting a role. without the need to maintain an image, without trying to control outcomes. Everything flows naturally because it begins in awareness, not from fear of lack, not from the hunger for affirmation. In this state, you no longer search for something from life, not because you have become indifferent, but because you are already living in the very source of every answer. There is nothing to grasp, nothing to defend, nothing to perfect. Everything already is, and that is enough. This is not apathy, nor resignation. It is supreme aliveness. To live with everything, without being bound by anything. Like a drop of water dissolving into the ocean. It is not lost. It has become the whole. So too, when you are no longer the one who sees, but the seeing itself, you are no longer a someone in the world. You are life itself, recognizing itself through every gaze, every step, every breath. There is nothing hidden, nothing to explain. Only this. You have never left this seeing. You have never been anything else but it. In the end, after all the questions, all the analysis, all the experiences, what remains is not a concept of the mind, but a living silence inside you right now. A stillness that needs no explanation, a knowing that demands no name. And in that state, the mind is no longer something abstract, no longer far away, but the living reality flowing beneath every thought. The mind does not come from the past. It is not found in the future. It reveals itself only in the present, not through effort, not through imagination, but through unconditional presence. If, right now, you are quietly sensing yourself, not trying to think more, not analyzing further, then you are already in the mind. No confirmation is needed. No proof is required. Simply living in that knowing is enough. Don't let anyone convince you that the mind is too complex, too lofty, only reserved for monks or special individuals. It belongs to no one. It cannot be owned. It is not limited by identity or circumstance. Whoever you are, wherever you are, it is always here. The eternal foundation beneath all movements of life. When you live from the mind, you no longer seek meaning in forms. You no longer depend on right or wrong, winning or losing, or on the approval of others. You begin to see everything as it is, neither polished nor resisted. And then life is no longer a battlefield, but a gentle flow where every moment contains a deep wisdom, without words. Perhaps this is what we has always whispered. Not to lead you towards something new, but to help you see what was never absent. Not to add another layer of spiritual knowledge, but to reveal that you already have everything. Not to make you believe more, but to let go of what is untrue. Not to turn you into someone else, but to bring you back to the pure knowing within you, the one that has never left. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being fully present with we. And if there is one thing left after all of this, it is simply this: you, in your purest form.